Hello, everyone, and a very good morning to all of you. We are happy to have you online with us this Saturday morning. With a mission to guide students transitioning from campus to career, Edugraph, the education vertical of the Telegraph Online, has curated a series of career discovery webinars. These webinars will help aspirants like you gain valuable insights on career paths, various career paths. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Shweta and I'm a part of the EduGraph team. I'll be moderating today's webinar. Now, we understand that selecting the right career path is a very important decision in your life's journey. Today's webinar will throw light on how to be a filmmaker. Over the next hour, we'll delve into the world of filmmaking and discuss the various aspects of filmmaking, the career scope, and more that will empower you to make informed decisions aligned with your skills, your passions, your interests, and aspirations. Today, we are honored to have with us our guest speaker for our session, Mr. Prasenjit Ghosh, who is an associate professor at the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute. Mr. Ghosh holds a postgraduate diploma in direction from the Film and Television Institute, Pune, an academician with an international exposure through projects like In the Twelfth Night and Shadow of Time. He excels in cross-cultural collaboration as well. His notable works such as The Spin and a Doordarshan documentary on poet Subhash Mukhopadhyay showcase his diverse storytelling prowess. Having participated in the Kolkata Film Festival with Golpo Kalpana, he also combines artistic insights with festival recognition. Mr. Ghosh's 14-year leadership in the SRFTI Student Production Department, overseeing 60 diplomas, 80 short films, and more, cements his role as a mentor. Before I hand over the session to Mr. Ghosh, I would just like to greet him on our virtual stage today. Very good morning to you, Mr. Ghosh, and welcome to our webinar on how to be a filmmaker.
Good morning, Sweta. Thank you very
Mr.
much for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be here.
The pleasure is completely ours, sir. We hand over the session to you.
Thank you very much, Telegraph Online, for inviting me to talk about filmmaking. This is a wonderful platform, and I was going through some of your previous episodes, and I was really jealous. I was really uh, thinking that this kind of opportunity was not there when I got into filmmaking or film training, because I was trained in FTI, as Sweta has already told you. So in our time, it was not so easy. It was informations were not readily available the way you are getting that opportunity. So you should take advantage of this at the most, and it will actually help you to understand a lot of things from outside, because once you enter into any kind of profession, not just filmmaking, it is very difficult when you discover that you are not fit for, or you are not enjoying that kind of domain or atmosphere. So it is always better, though it is not a guaranteed thing, that if you enter into something liking it, and at some point of time you actually may not like what you are doing. That has happened a number of times. We get students from all different walks of life, from all different professions, and nowadays we are getting a lot of people from, say, engineering background. Those who have done engineering has already worked in the in the field for a long time, and then suddenly he discovers that probably this creative field, some creative art, which he think is only possible if he joins a film school, or if he does something which will uh, make him feel happy. So it is really, I'm really thankful, and I'm I really like that this idea. Though I must confess that within this short span, a subject like cinema, for that matter, any subject, uh, you'll hardly get any idea. And since it is a very hands-on profession, it is not like any other social sciences where you have already the 300, 400 years of research, 400 years of teaching, and it is very standardized. Unlike that, unlike those social sciences, filmmaking is a new art, if you call it art, because it is disputed. Some people in the initial stages were not ready to accept filmmaking as an art, because there are several reasons behind it, and it is, as I said, it is relatively a new art form. It is definitely an art form, but it also involves a lot of commerce. It also involves a lot of technology, because you cannot make film without a film camera. You cannot make film nowadays without the sound recording devices. Though initial days when cinema started, uh, it is around, say, 1895, when the first movie was screened in Paris. I hope all of you must be aware about it. Another good thing that you can have access to a lot of knowledge, and there are a lot of information which you get if you just hit the internet button. Say it Wikipedia, or even in YouTube, there are several videos which will make you aware enough to become filmmaker, even without going to a film school. Going to a film school is, of course, is not the only way that everyone knows, and thousands of examples are there. All Some of the great filmmakers, particularly of yesteryears, were not from any film school. But if you go through film training through a film school, film training actually can be, even you can get while you are on job. For instance, when the film schools were not there were no dearth of technicians or directors. These people were available. Why this thing happened? Because if you go back to the history, and you need to know a little bit of history to become a filmmaker, you have to have an idea of how the film has developed over the years. So if you go back to history, you will see that all this the studio system, anyone who is interested can hit and see what studio system means. So in the studio system, people were actually in the payroll, and they actually learn on job. So they can assist. They used to assist. Say for director, there'll be assistant directors. For cinematographers, there'll be many assistants. So gradually they have gone up and became independent filmmaker. So if you want to be a filmmaker, it is not necessary that you have to go to a film school. People have actually learned, as I said, on job by assisting people, and you can gather information nowadays from internet, and you can also make yourself ready for filmmaking, because filmmaking, as I said, is actually borrowing from other art forms. So, for instance, if you know music, if you have fair idea of music, if you have fair idea of painting, if you have fair idea of photography, these things can actually help you immensely to become a filmmaker. But there is no ready-made formula, as there is no ready-made formula for a film being hit or flop. You never know. Putting so much effort, your film, which you are thinking that it is going to uh, take a sweep on box office or been liked by people can actually bomb. So there is no ready-made formula, and since this is not a very uh, old formed structured system, it is getting more and more structured. So it is really difficult. Uh, as you can see in the slide, is called "What is filmmaking?" But it is a very big area. Filmmaker generally, we tend to think that the director is generally the filmmaker, because of course he's the filmmaker in a sense, because he has the vision and he actually is transforming what is there in his mind and getting everything into screen. But is it possible for him alone to get this uh, done? It is actually not possible. Another aspect of filmmaking which you should be aware, it is not like a solo art. It needs quite a lot of people. Actually, sometimes if you go on a movie set, the number can be from 500 to even thousands. And if you are using extras, as you have seen in crowd scenes, it can also hit maybe 10,000. If you have anyone has seen Lagan, that film which Amir Khan was the main star. So it has many scenes where 10,000 people were featuring on screen. So it's a great difficult task. Unlike other art, for instance, uh, if you're a painter, you can just have your uh, paint and canvas, and you can do whatever their creative aspiration in your mind. You can transfer it on to the canvas. But for filmmakers, it is not so. So to understand this medium, you have to understand that it is a kind of art which involves many people, which I will also discuss. That who are the people involved in filmmaking. So in a way, everyone can claim to be the filmmaker, because without contribution of everyone, and sometimes, however little that position may look, may actually make a lot of difference in the filmmaking. So if you consider the nature of this art, you will see that it's a very it's an art where a lot of people are involved. Likewise, it also depends upon technology. You cannot just uh, uh, make films without paying attention to the technology, and the technology is changing every day. It is, if you see from the very beginning, you see that it was a silent era. The first screening which I was talking about, which happened in Paris, that screening was there was no sound, and the way it was filmed, it was very cumbersome. You can see even in the picture the kind of cameras that used to be in vogue at that point of time. So that technology has changed over the years, and it has impacted the filmmaking process. So when this sound era started, it was another chapter where actually camera became much more bigger, because you need to blimp it's a mechanical process, and actually it is quite difficult for people nowadays to understand what the way the filmmaking used to take place on those days, because this digital era is much more. You are getting much more lighter cameras. You actually you can use your phone. I've been told that there are a lot of people and a lot of questions being asked about this smartphone filmmaking. So your accessibility to this medium is now very, very easy, and you can make films very easily. So you don't have to go to a film school. You can actually use your mobile phones. And most of the people nowadays, those who are listening, I think many of them know how to edit, know the software, and it is not very difficult. And that is the way, that is the best way. Even in the film school also, you are actually doing things again and again. To be filmmaker or to become anything, you need to practice. And I'm actually nowadays interested more into tennis. I was actually watching the tennis match, which I think is right now going on. So one of the stalwarts, Rafael Nadal, he has a saying, and I really like that saying. And it says that practice not to be right, not to hit it right, but practice not to hit it wrong. So practice is the key. And if you keep on practicing, you will also get to know a lot of finer points of filmmaking. So in the film school, you are actually privileged in a way, because in particularly the government film school, the film school right now where I'm sitting, and where I also got a kind of training, it is highly subsidized, and it gives you immense scope to experiment, because this kind of film schools, they're generally very liberal, and students can really experiment, and experiment at the cost of taxpayers' money. Sometimes people have objected on this, that if the film is not very mainstream, or it is not very easily understandable, so why we are allowing, or the government is putting its money? So that those kind of questions also do come. So you can see that aspects of filmmaking, these are the things which you need to know, and in a film school it is given to you in a very structured manner. The thing uh, which will take for you, if you are on job, may take say for instance 10 years. If you are in a film school, which most of the film schools have curriculum around say 3 years. So in 3 years you can learn uh, almost whatever you are going to learn in on job for 10 years. So that's a great advantage of going to a film school. So aspects of filmmaking, it's a very vast area, and I'll just point out some of the things which are not generally taken into consideration. Generally, we think that, and it is a film, it is a production part, and actually I am more involved nowadays into the film production, and film production is gaining more popularity, and it's gaining more importance, because it is actually teaching you in a very structured manner how to make films in a very structured manner. Since a lot of money is involved, and a lot of people, their career and their everything is at stake, you cannot become whimsical. And there is a structured way of making films, and it is generally it is the Hollywood mode of filmmaking, which sometimes people do object to, because Hollywood is sometimes not, particularly in film schools, it is not very in thing to like Hollywood. But Hollywood also have several phases. If you really go through the history of filmmaking, Hollywood has several phases where actually filmmaking has developed like anything. As the technology has changed and it has impacted the cinema, also the filmmaking process, say editing, it has over the years has developed. And since Hollywood is making the major chunk of the film, they are the big brothers. So the system which has been developed, and that's why it is called film production. It is like any product. So you are approaching it as a product, and you are making a systematic approach to the filmmaking. So that is very important, as it is very uh, money heavy thing. So it generally, we believe that it starts from shooting, but shooting is actually, if you consider the whole process, shooting is the easiest part, and it will become easiest when you have done your homework in a very proper manner, systematically and thoroughly. So that generally is not known to people. That we generally tend to go by the glamour of filmmaking, but that is just one side of filmmaking. It is actually rigor, lot of systematic approach needs to be taken while you're making the film. So development is is a phase which generally we don't we tend to look over. And development is a phase where everything, almost everything, will be there in the seed form. It will branch out later on. So if you have not taken proper precautions in the development phase, it is going to be a lost case. So what happens in the development? And development is generally done by very few people, and that is the most uh, you can say the most precarious state. You never know the thing which you are developing will become a film one day. And lot of cases, I think the ratio is pretty high, that things have been developed and then it has not seen the light of the day. So what happens in the development? You are actually choosing an idea. You are choosing your subject, on what you are going to make the film, and then you need to take it forward. How do you take it forward? The script needs to be prepared, and it may so happen that the director is not the only one. At least in Hollywood, the system was very truncated. In Hollywood, the scriptwriter is different, the director is different. Everyone has their own role. The role is very is truncated. It is assigned, and no one actually dabbles into the other area. So the scriptwriter develops the script, and it is a long process, and it's a very difficult process, because this script is going to somehow decide that what will be the final film. It has a lot to do with the script stage, and lot of things needs to be decided when the script is being written. Lot of things which we tend to forget, and we tend to actually make up. For instance, sound. Sound is a very important part, and if the scriptwriter is not aware the role of sound, then you cannot just in the post-production stage save the film. So script writing is an area which needs to be paid maximum attention. And script is basically the Bible, or you can say the blueprint of how the film is going to be made. Because in production process, that is continuously being referred to. And since you have to make it systematic, the production has to be systematic, you need to take out things, elements from the script. And everyone must have seen how a script looks like. It is nowadays you have a software, lot of softwares, which can help you to write this script in a proper format, because that format actually helps you to make the production easier. So if you write those lines and scripts in certain manner, then it is easier, because nowadays we in our time it was the softwares were not in vogue. We had to do it manually. But nowadays, actually, there are softwares which can do a lot of this work, which will make your shooting, your production much easier. So script writing, they have lots of softwares. Uh, One which is very oft used is Final Draft. Uh, Celtex is another, and some of them are actually readily available. So you should take help of these things, and and there are certain stages in pre-production. Actually, once you decide on the script, once you lock the script, once the money is in place, we call it in our parlance, that is green lighting a project. The once you are more or less convinced that this film is going to be made, someone decides. So it can be a studio, it can be a private financer who is ready to put the money. So once that money is in place, then the most important part begins. And then one very important aspect is, how do you convince people? That is generally done by pitching. You pitch your idea, pitch your script, and that actually make the other person who is interested in this project to put their money and put their support. Not always money is the main thing. If someone backs you, that only clears a lot of things. So for instance, if you get a big actor or a big star, that will make your life much easier. But I'm talking about, these are mainstream and these are big productions, but that is also not the only kind of filmmaking. We generally tend to pay too much attention because it is in our purview. We are always encountering these big productions, and media is only talking about this. But there are other strands of filmmaking. And these strands of filmmaking, actually, if you go back to the history, you'll see that this fiction filmmaking and non-fiction or documentary kind of filmmaking, it started in the very beginning. And it started with the first screening, which I said, it was more of the observational nature, which was done by Lumiere brothers. And then there was another strand that is also in France, George Méliès, who did all this kind of fantasy stuff. And storytelling got into a very different, it's another level. It took the filmmaking angle into a very different level. So these strands are already there. So you don't think that, you should not think that this feature filmmaking and this big budget filmmaking is only kind of filmmaking, though it is most noticed, though that is the lure most of you will be having. But even in documentary scenario, I know of sure that even in India nowadays the scenario is pretty good. And if you really want to make documentaries, the possibilities are pretty high. So how do you convince? Even in there is a forum called Dockage in Calcutta. If someone searches, you will find out. So those are actually platforms where you can pitch your idea, pitch your the film which you want to make. So how do you convince people? That's the most important area, which we generally tend to overlook. But those areas needs to be focused much more, and those are actually very structured areas. And how someone will get convinced. So to convince these people, you need to have a presentation which will talk about your film in a very concise but very definitive way. So you will know that this project has this prospect, and this project has been mounted. It is called mounting. That you actually giving an idea that if this is my idea, this is the way it should be developed, and this will be my core crew. These are the people who are going to be there on the, it's called HOD, the the heads of the department, because heads of the department actually going to play a major role in filmmaking, because whatever the director is going to convey, it has to be conveyed through, you can't escape that you have to have a cinematographer, you have to have a sound recordist designer, you have to have an editor. So all these people needs to be put on list to gain the confidence of the person who is putting money. And you need to also talk about that what genre of filmmaking. Genre also you can search. Uh, there are several genres, which can be drama, which can be a horror. These are the genres. So the person who is getting interested will know immediately what where he's going to get involved. And it also in a very brief manner tells you that what will be the say the mood of the film, what will be the look of the film, and what will be another very important aspect is the budget. You have to have a ballpark figure that this film is going to cost you this much. And actually we also generally the figure we get mostly, say for instance 100 crore film. So actual production budget maybe say only uh, 15 crore or 20 crore, because the process of making the film is same, whether it is starred by Salman Khan or any Hollywood star. The process will be more or less same, but uh, their share will be, in terms of money, will be much more. So if you are when you are making budget, another thing which I'd like to point out is it is also a Hollywood process. Uh, it calls ATL and BTL. So when you are giving the ballpark figure, you generally give the ATL and BTL. ATL is above the line. It is basically uh, which is going to cost you maximum, which is basically the artist that stars your script. Your script costs, in Hollywood, scripts cost immense amount of money, and the script writer, and also your producer is a very important person. His producer is actually not someone who is dealing with who is just money bag, which used to be the concept. He is, of course, he's a custodian of money, and he is the person who decides that how the money is going to be spent. He has the expertise, he or she has the expertise to distribute and help this team to make that money. So these people are their lump sum payment, and the BTL is below the line, is actually the people who is on ground going to make the film. So for instance, all your light boys, all your say set people. Set is another very important area, which is also money heavy, because it involves a lot of money. If you erect a set, uh, you must have seen in films. For instance, even in Lagan, it looks like it is actually done on location, a live location, but there are a lot of things which were constructed and constructed in a way which will facilitate that kind of filmmaking. For instance, if you should actually have a look at the making of Lagan. It is readily available. So it will make you clear that what kind of thinking goes when you are making the film, apart from the creative part, which we know, but it is a process which cannot be described very easily or cannot be taught very easily. But everything can actually you attain through practice. That is the key word. Practice, rigor. These are the things you have to have. Otherwise, you cannot become a filmmaker. If you just only thinking that you are going to get money, you are going to make money, this is not the field. There are other fields which is much more paying. Only if you are ready to this kind of rigor, only if you are really passionate about filmmaking, then only you should come into this profession. Actually, any profession, you have to be really passionate. You have to have also the courage. I was just watching, again referring to the match which was happening. That person is actually on the wall. His back is on the wall. He's going to, anyone who is going to think that he's going to lose the game, but that person is convinced that I am going to come out of this. In filmmaking, this will happen again and again. You are going to go through these lows most of the time. So you have to be ready, prepared for these kind of challenges. It is really the core of this filmmaking. If you are not ready to take these challenges, then this is not the place for you. It is really a very complicated area on those terms, and that kind of passion, that kind of dedication is most needed. And even you go to any kind of filmmaking, uh, in the process, in the chain, you are an editor, you are a director, you are a cinematographer. You have to have that passion. So I'll request to put on that video. It is actually made by one of our students, two of our students, and it's a very rudimentary effort because they were learning that point of time. But I think it is very important for you to have an idea.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम शशांक है और मैं को प्रोड्यूसर हूँ। मैं और मेरा पार्टनर संकेत डेमो फिल्म बनाना चाहते हैं जिसका जॉनर रहेगा ड्रामा। कहानी ये उस इलाके की है जहाँ बहुत बड़ा मैदान है और मैदान के अंत में एक दीवार है। दीवार की एक तरफ रिहायशी इलाका, दूसरी तरफ कॉलोनी का इलाका। रिहायशी इलाका क्लब वाला एरिया दीवार से सटा हुआ है। कहानी एक बच्चे की है जिसका नाम है सरजू, जिसकी उम्र 12 साल है। वो अपने दोस्त का गिल्ली डंडा खेल रहा होता है और उसकी गिल्ली दीवार के उस तरफ चली जाती है। अपनी गिल्ली को ढूंढते ढूंढते वो दीवार पर चढ़ता है। देखता क्या है कि रोहन, जिसकी उम्र भी 12 साल है, अपनी मम्मी पापा के साथ उस क्लब में एंटर करते हैं, अपने जूते उतारते रिसेप्शन के बाहर और अंदर चले जाते हैं। उसकी नज़र पड़ती है गिल्ली पे जो कि रोहन के जूते के साथ पड़ी हुई है। वो फटाफट जाता है, उस अपनी गिल्ली उठाता है तो देखता क्या है कि रोहन के जूते, इसमें नाइकी लिखा हुआ है और एक टिक मार्क बना हुआ है। उसको वो जूते इतने पसंद आते हैं कि वो अपनी मम्मी के पास जाकर सीधा बोलता है कि माँ, इस बार दिवाली में मुझे जूते चाहिए नाइकी वाले जिस पे टिक मार्क बना हुआ है। उसकी माँ को समझ नहीं आता है। उसकी माँ उसे 50 तरीके के खर्चे गिनवा देती है और कहती है देख, तेरे को जूते नहीं दूंगी मैं इस बारी, क्योंकि मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है। अपनी माँ से नाराज़ होकर वो अपने काम में लग जाता है। अगले दिन जब वो उठता है स्कूल जाने के लिए, उसके दिमाग में वही जूते का ख्याल ही उसके दिमाग में घूम रहा होता है। जहाँ उसकी नज़र पड़ती है वहाँ जूता जूता दिख रहा होता है उसे, और टिक मार्क भी लगता है, उसे लगता है वो जूते का साइन है। परेशान होकर अपने हाथ पे भी वो टिक मार्क बना लेता है। अगले दिन जब वो वापस खेलने जाता है, पहली फिल्म में बैठा होता है वो, उसके दिमाग में ख्याल आता है कि जूते वाली बात मैं मम्मी से नहीं पापा से करूँगा, क्या पता उनको वहाँ जूते मिल जाए। सरजू फटाफट जाते दीवार के पास देखने के लिए कि यह वक्त हो गया है, जूते वाला बच्चा आने वाला होगा, साइज वाइज देख लूँ क्या रहेगा, तो पापा को सीधा जाके बोलूँगा कि मुझे यही जूता चाहिए। बच्चा आता है अपनी मम्मी के साथ, जूते उतारता है, अंदर जाता है। सरजू फटाफट दीवार फांदता है और जूते के अंदर पाँव डालता है, देखता है कि साइज उसको फिट है कि नहीं है और क्या साइज मैं बोलूँ। इतनी देर में सिक्योरिटी उसको पकड़ लेता है। वहाँ पे सिक्योरिटी उसको पकड़ता है, उसे डांटता है। उसकी डांट वाट सुन के रोहन और उसकी मम्मी भी वहाँ पे आते हैं और देखते हैं उसने रोहन के जूते पहन रखे हैं। वो लोग भी उसको डांटते हैं, सब लोग डांटते हैं। रोहन के पापा बाहर से आते हैं, सरजू को वहाँ से बाहर लेके जाते हैं और उसे समझाते हैं और उसे एक कहानी सुनाते हैं बना के कि उसके पापा ने उसको एक कपलिंग दिया था, जादुई कपलिंग है, जिसको हाथ में रख के आप जो भी मांगो वो आपको मिल जाएगा, और ये आप उस बंदे को देना जिसको आपसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत हो उसकी। उसका बाप उसे कपलिंग देता है और वो कपलिंग लेके सरजू वापस अपने घर भागता है और अपने रोज़मर्रा के काम में लग जाता है। और इस बार ना कोई बदतमीजी करता है, सीधे मुंह सबसे बात करता है। और ये देख के उसकी माँ परेशान हो जाती है कि बच्चा बदल रहा है। तो सरजू, और दूसरी तरफ सरजू मंत्र बना रहा होता है कि क्या क्या बोल के मांगू कि जूता मिल जाए। वो तरह तरह के मंत्र बनाता है। तो उसे ख्याल आता है कि जूता मांग तो लूँ तो जूता आएगा कहाँ पे। वो जूता बना के मांगता है, ढूंढता है पूरा यहाँ वहाँ, तो जूता मिलता नहीं है। अगले दिन स्कूल जाता है, सोचता है कि मैदान के सामने मांगूंगा तो मुझे मैदान के सामने मिल जाएगा, वहाँ भी नहीं मिलता है। परेशान होकर वापस वो जब घर आता है तो देखता है कि मेहमानों का जमावड़ा उसके घर पे बैठा हुआ है। उसके चाचा और मम्मी आते हैं, उसे एक डब्बा देते हैं जिसपे जूते होते हैं और जिसपे नाइकी तो नहीं, निक्की लिखा होता है, टिक मार्क होता है पर 2, वो भी उल्टे। उसको ख्याल आता है कि 2 टिक मार्क, उसको लगता है शायद से मैंने 2 बार ही मांग लिया, इस पर इसमें 2 टिक मार्क बने हैं और मैंने गलत मांगा इसलिए उल्टे बने हुए हैं। पर कोई नहीं, उसे अपनी गलती लगती है, वो जूते पहन के खेलने जाता है और वो कप लिंक दूसरी टीम के बंदों को दे देता है, कहता है तुमको उसकी ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है, और अपने दोस्तों के साथ वापस गिल्ली डंडा खेलने लग जाता है। थैंक यू।
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sanket Mishra. I am a co-producer of this film with my partner Sashank. The genre of this film is drama. The film is based in Kolkata. It will be shot in different locations of Kolkata, in slums of Tangra, Park Circus, and Dhakuria. The language of the film is both Hindi and Bengali. The actors of this film are basically children from a slum dance group called Bob's Dance Group, which runs in the slums of Kolkata. The director of the film we are trying to bag in is Amritanshu Singh. He has been awarded in Pondicherry Film Festival and Kolkata International Film Festival for his films Chahat Ke Gubbare, which is based on children, and documentary Grey, which is based on transgender community. He has also directed a horror film, Aghatit. The cinematographer of this film we are trying to bag in is Girish Gangadharan. He has shot Angamali Diaries, and he has this dynamic treatment of this film. The color palette of this film is analogous color palette of warm colors, which is used in films like Life of Pi, Anili, Elizabeth Ekadashi, and Slumdog Millionaire. The target audience of the film is from 7 to 70. This film does not only cater to children but also to a large mass, because everybody suffers from brand culture and happiness is a fact which appeals to everyone. This film will be released in national and international film festivals as well as on social media. I hope all of you will like this film. Thank you.
I think it gives a fair idea that with very limited resources, you can pitch your film, though it is not one of the best examples. And they were actually in the initial stages of learning this art. You don't always need money or huge amount of backing to make films, or even to pitch an idea. Just you need to, because most of the footages were found footages, were just downloaded from many films. So this gives a fair idea about that how you can make it interesting. I hope it was interesting to those who were watching, but it was very interesting to me because I have seen the whole process, that how they have come to this stage, because this is also a part of their training. All of them in this kind of groups, they pitch their ideas and we just evaluate them. So it is actually not they're going to get finance for this, but later on they actually use this technique, this training, this learning to actually pitch in larger forums, and they have done it. Many of them have done it. Now I think we can talk about the career in filmmaking, which I have already somehow given idea. So what happens in film courses particularly, though that is not only the option, as I also said. So you can actually go through. I can talk about more about my institute, which is SRFTI, and FTI, which is my alma mater, where I have got trained, which are more or less similar. And this is perhaps the most known and an affordable film school in a way, because it is government backed. But you have private institutions like Whistling Woods. You have other, you can see other courses available. And nowadays, that is another thing which is happening. I don't know whether it is good or bad. It is becoming like a degree course, which we are also trying to incorporate. But that will change a kind of outlook which the way it was conceived long back. Uh, it will probably change, but change is inevitable. You cannot stop it. My journey is also very little where I think people come to film schools with very strange connection with films, because initially my first encounter with cinema happened when my mother used to take me to. She was learning something, and she used to take me along because there was no one. And after the thing was over, she used to go to a movie theater which was nearby. So the film which I first saw was, I think, something to do with it. It's a Bengali film, definitely. It is something like Jomalai Jibanto Manus or something. And I got mighty scared by looking at those figures, demons and all those figures. And I came out. I started crying. So it was very strange that how come I ended up in filmmaking and film teaching. It is still a very is not very clear to me. But probably because of that, I got also the affinity to know about it more later on. And after graduation, I was looking for opportunity, and actually I was lucky that that time film schools were not so well known, particularly the background I come from, middle class, and people will not encourage you. By the way, I think there are a lot of questions which are going to come up. Is about the family support. No one still, I think, till today, people are not very convinced. But it is now it's a very good career path, I can say. A lot of opportunities in different areas. So I ended up in a film school, and we did it in 3 years. The course was a 3-year long course. So while I was on our this thing campus, I think I already, that is another area that there is no proper placement till now in film schools, particularly government film schools. So it is through your seniors, your peers, you get to know people, and then you get placed. So that way I went to Bombay, and I assisted somebody who was my senior, who was also from Calcutta, though not a Bengali. And then after that, I went to do documentary filmmaking, which is also my favorite, uh, my liking area. So I got into assisted. So both the projects I assisted, and then I came back to Calcutta because my father was not well, and then I could not go back. So I think that was my Bombay chapter. Then I came back. Then we started a company together, 3 of our batchmates, and we started doing small work. And finally, this film school was coming up, and it was almost 7-8 years. And then some of my batchmates were working here, so they told me that you please appear, and I started as production manager here. I was a production manager for 14 years. So hands-on filmmaking, I know a little bit more than any other uh, any other people in Bengal, at least. We have done so many documentaries, so many diploma, and the other projects. Actually, when you are in a film school, you get to do many projects, different genres, different types, different durations. That is also an added advantage of coming to a film school. So I joined here, and I think I have almost crossed 25 years in this field as production manager. Then this producing department came into being, and I opted to come and teach here. So as a teacher, I'm pretty new, but in the profession, I'm there for, you can see, some 30 years. Mentor, guide, or people whom you look up to actually can influence you, and whether it is in a film school, whether it is outside, it can help you immensely. And actually be in company with people who are thinking like-minded, thinking about film. That is most important. That, for instance, after we graduated from FTI, we used to have a adda kind of thing near Nandan, next to Nandan actually. So where people used to gather and used to the kind of their aspirations, share their aspirations, their plans, and there actually my first thing started there. While I was in the film school, the filmmaker was Saurabh Sarangi, who was a well-known documentary filmmaker, and at that point of time, and he was senior in the institute, and he was already working here. So that point of time, I got involved in that project, uh, and that project was maybe more than 7 years long. It was from inception to the final finish was 7 years long. I was there for only say for 6 months or so, but that actually helped me a lot. And these kind of things, you interact with people who are seniors who have done work outside, has you have liking to their work. So those people can actually guide you a lot. If you are really passionate about this field, that kind of uncertainty which was there during our time. For instance, my father was little reluctant because he used to work in a bank, and that point of 30 years back, and that point of time, all this some of the this so-called parallel filmmakers account was there in that bank. So he said that, okay, if you want to go, I'll give you support for your education, but I know what kind of film you are going to make. He was actually pointing out those filmmakers, and I know their bank account balance. So if you want to be a filmmaker, be a filmmaker. I'll support you. But that kind of scenario is no longer there, because I think if my father was alive, he actually was a film buff. I think some gene has transferred from him and my sister, who was also actually artistically much more talented than me. So it's a field to be in if you are really passionate. As I said, if you really want to take challenges, it, all walks of life, I think, in professions, challenge is going to be there, but it has varied, and it's interesting sort of challenge, because you're dealing with people all the time. You are also creative. Your creative aspirations are also getting fulfilled. So it is prospects of filmmaking, filmmaker, or future of filmmaking is very bright, and with the digital technology and nowadays, which I'm not very aware about. So some people were asking about, I think, the smartphone filmmaking. There are courses now in FTI, and it's actually a gadget. You just need, as I said, you just need something to record, whether it is in a celluloid in our time, or later on on tapes, or now in chips. So that is the only difference. It is, and you are really free nowadays. You can you don't need so much money. If you're really creative, we can see that on internet, on the YouTube channel. Some of the films are actually better than our students' films. So I get really astonished at looking at those films. So it is really bright. As I said, I don't know that whether it comes through gene or anything. I don't think there is any proof of that. But as I said, the practice is only thing which matters. If you really at it and you are practicing it, you are going to reach a stage. It may not be the highest stage. A lot of other factors will depend, will actually shape your future. But if you practice, you are going to be creative after some time. So if I start writing, my writing ability will improve. I'll end up being a better writer in some point of time, for sure. Basically, you are adopting, you are changing a medium actually. and that has been done. Best example is Satyajit Ray. That and that how he actually encountered Pather Panchali is another story. That he was an illustrator, he was a commercial artist, and he did the design for that book, and he read that book. As somebody told that, please read that book. Somebody means I think DK told him, and DG the Signet Press, and he had that capability. Not all the books are going to be a very good films. There are a lot of bad examples. Good work of art has been transferred into a bad film. So that there is no guarantee, but you have to understand both the medium, and then you have to know how to transfer it. There is no ready-made formula for that, but a lot of people who are from theater acting background has flourished. But basically, if you look into Orson Welles, a very famous actor and the most important directors, one of the most important directors in the history of film, he comes from that background. It's a very difficult question. Cinema, to me, primarily, I was actually dabbling with a lot of ideas, what to talk about, how to start. This happens all the time, and I'm not very comfortable speaking in a bigger forum and private this public platforms. Coming so many years and experiencing, though I cannot claim to be a real filmmaker in that sense, because I'm not out of practice for a long time in real filmmaking. But I am in this environment of filmmaking for so many years and actively this thing involved. More and more, I realize that you have to be a good observer of life. Your understanding of life has to be very good, very sharp, and you have to have connect with people. You have to have understanding of your surroundings. But that is not enough. Then you have to know how this can be transferred into filmmaking. So it is just not if you are a very good understanding of life, but also you have to know the know. That's why you need to be trained. That's why you need to be in the field for a long time, so that you can transfer this to other forms. Whether you're making films, whether you're doing a theater, it doesn't matter. But that is most important to me till now. Yeah, my top films will be it will depend upon my training. It will depend upon my liking. It may not be the best films, and actually it will not be the best films. But I sure by this time, the kind of slides I have presented you, you can become a filmmaker by now if you have studied all those things. Personally, in the institute, we have in the course, we have to, because since I was a direction student, we are supposed to analyze one director of your choice. So I did a filmmaker called Luis Buñuel, who is from Spain, basically. The kind of films he made, most of them are in my liking. So it is more than 3 films. But apart from that, I like Jacques Tati. I'll be talking about mostly European filmmakers, because if you go to a film school, that is another, it's not fallacy, but it is somehow, there the art has flourished. So naturally, you tend to have more access to all those kind of art. So Jacques Tati is another filmmaker who is you can't say comedy filmmaker, but a very interesting filmmaker and a real observer of life. That with some, you don't need grand ideas to make films. That's what I believe, that you don't need big gadgets and big money, but you have to have that observation. And that filmmaker, Jacques Tati, is a French filmmaker. He is fantastic in that. Apart from that, I'll also recommend the Russian school of filmmaking, particularly Tarkovsky is another filmmaker who's a trained filmmaker, and the passion, if you want to discover in one filmmaker, but he's a guy you should his films you should have a look.
And with that, we come to the end of the session, and I would like to thank all of you for joining us today and for this wonderful session on filmmaking. And we hope that we've been able to be a beacon of light and provide you with valuable information on filmmaking as a career. Thank you so much, and stay tuned to the EduGraph for announcements on the next and upcoming webinars.